Episode 7 of From Long COVID to Bustleton Ironman with Bottle.It. I am Beau Jones, your host, and here is not our intro. Yep, we may have missed an episode last week, but that doesn't mean we've had time to work on an introduction. Now, we did miss an episode last week, and it was a lovely little insight into planning. A lot of the earlier episodes spoke about efficient planning and managing expectation and managing time, and I got caught out by a curveball, like a pretty cool curveball, but it still I managed to throw my whole week, my week plan, my weekend, threw everything out a little bit. And unfortunately, one of the things that I had to give was this podcast. This podcast, despite only being 15 minutes long, takes probably 3 to 4 hours of uploading, editing, making thumbnails, and trying to get everything right to get the algorithm sweet so it gets in front of as many eyes as possible. And unfortunately, when it's not conducive to financial reward or or seen as overly productive, it did fall by the wayside, which was a cool insight into even the next 2 months, how to plan that around, because obviously work is valuable. You get financial relief from work, training. You can see value in training, especially when you are training for Bottle.It Ironman. So yeah, when it did come to the decision time to pick up more work or to go for a run, those two things always, unfortunately, have preference. Well, unfortunately, it kind of is what it is. But one of the reasons why I was a little bit time poor last week is because I had to drive to the Central Coast to pick up my new TT bike for Bustleton Ironman. So anyone who's familiar with my Instagram account or the Bottle.It Instagram account may have seen the new blue Cervelo that I'll be riding at Noosa and over at Bustleton. Lovely. This is how that cool momentum of others and how this community can really help to just look after each other. This was a young guy called Alex up on Brisbane who had this bike sitting in storage. Another tall human was sitting there not being used. Through Clint Rowlands, friend of the show, coach at RPG, he knew Alex, reached out to Alex and said, "Hey mate, have you still got that bike you had? Got a guy who's keen." And just through a few conversations, it went from marketplace to inquiry to introducing myself to. He literally after speaking to me, spoke to Clint and said, "Look, mate, if he's one of your mates, I'm going to knock off." He knocked off an extra, $800 on what he could have been asking for that bike, which is huge. It means an absolute heap when you get that kind of. We didn't have to overreach into our budget to get something like that, and literally that discount came because he was friends with Clint, who's friends with Bottle.It. So that was the start of a pretty cool journey to get that bike. It then kind of that whole good karma flowed on. The bike was in Brisbane, put the feelers out on social media just to see if anyone was around. I was quite happy to either drive up or to fly up and go grab it, and then a friend of a friend. Legend of a guy was driving from Port Macquarie to Brisbane to watch his daughter or maybe his niece play for Queensland State of Origin under-17 side. Turns out he drove up, had to take a bigger car than he wanted to go watch the game to bring the bike back to Port Macquarie. Another one of his friends drove the bike from Port Macquarie to Newcastle. One of my mates, Andrew Fox, picked up the bike from Newcastle, drove it to the Central Coast for me, and I was able to grab it from the Central Coast. So the bike has been through so many hands, and through going through so many hands, it just shows you how strong community can be with those things. And I am forever grateful to have so many cool people play a special piece in getting me that bike. And I don't know, it makes it more special than just kind of walking in and grabbing one off the rack. It's nice to know that, so many people were supportive of, getting me this bike. So if any of those people are listening, thank you so much. It genuinely, it means so much more now that bike has been, it's got its cool own little, origin story, and I'm looking forward to spending a heap more hours on it over the next 2 months. If there is interest out there, hit me in the comments. If there is interest to explain some of the costs behind Ironman and how much it costs to do and how much it costs to train and why bikes, why wheels, and that costs so much, I by no means am an expert, but I have been, at the low end of the budget trying to understand the Ironman game or the triathlon game for a good 6 years now. And I've got a good layman's terms idea of why things cost a certain amount. And but yeah, if there is interest there for people to find out, why Shimano 105 is so cheap and why Dura-Ace is so expensive and what you're getting for your bang for your buck and how much you should be spending for your entry level bike and where you should put that, if you do have X amount saved, where you should put, X amount to get that return. So hit me in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing that. It has been a big 2 weeks, not only for the bike. This has been, in the first month, it's very easy to talk. We find this too with mental health. It's we find this with life. It's very easy to talk and make claims and say you're going to do things and you're going to change, you're going to do this. And the first 4 episodes were really easy to sit here and say, this is the plan and this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. This is the people around me that are going to do it. But when it actually starts happening, like the great Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And I had a plan, and we had a structure, and then I went and got punched in the face. And the punch in the face was fatigue. I forgot how much it hurts to train, or how tiring it is to train and to put your body through those large volumes. I went from 3 hours a week to training to now I'm up to 8 hours, and there's probably a few more. I've missed a few there, but there's probably a bit more GST on that. And then that's going to increase over the next 2 months. It's going to go through the roof. And it got to the point where my body's aching, sessions are aching. It's hard to get out of bed when the alarm goes off. Even though it's warm now, it's hard. And you start to question those decisions as to why. And you start to really beat yourself up as to, I've done this before, and I've done it so many times before, and it's something that I'm still trying to figure out, my diet and why I do things. I love endurance sports, but my body's also not conducive to endurance sports. When you're running, you're putting 6 to 7 times your body weight through your lower body when you're running. So every kilo you are overweight is another, 6 to 7 kilos you have to carry through your feet. And I love training up to a point of losing weight and racing kind of to my best. But then as soon as I'm not training or I'm not racing or something happens like long COVID, I resort back to alcohol and back to food for comfort. And it puts me back behind the 8 ball, and I have to start this whole process again. Now, anyone that does know me knows this is probably my 5th year of this yo-yo dieting. And it's a really, really interesting, it's something I'm finding kind of not difficult, but it's kind of, I love the sport, but to be productive at the sport, or to be fast or efficient, or to do it without, it's always going to hurt. Even skinny guys hurt when they train that large volume. That's always going to happen. But putting myself so far behind the 8 ball just because of society, like comfort and society, and obviously stress eating and whatever I'm doing, like there's no longevity to it. So the buck kind of needs to stop here, and it's something that I'm hoping that Bustleton has the opportunity to do. Hopefully with this prep and taking this prep seriously, it might be the change of things to come. It might be, okay, we'll flow on through cans and learn. I have started to identify with this prep, like if I am binge eating, like why am I binge eating? And usually it's not after training. It's not after doing the hard training sessions, because I appreciate the hard training sessions and I don't want to undo them. Usually it's on the rest days or after work, I kind of slip up. So I am taking stock as to what's happening, and hopefully it's something that I can stamp out in the future, because it's detrimental to not only my physical health, but definitely my mental health. Not so much while I'm doing it, because I'm definitely happy while I'm doing it. Like, you're always happy with a schooner and hot chips or Mexican or something that's delicious. Like it releases its own set of chemicals in your body that make you feel good. So there is that weird little mental health thing there, but then you jump on the scales or you put a shirt on, it doesn't fit anymore, and it brings you down. So I definitely have to figure that out. I'm looking forward to figuring it out over the next 2 months. Training. This has been you have to find that dog in you. And I don't know how else to use that expression, but you have to fire yourself the fuck up. Like, Botle.It are big for it. If you can't fire yourself up, find someone else to fire you up. I haven't needed someone to fire myself up. I'm my own hype man. I've trained myself to become my own hype man. Every time I start bullying myself, it's taken years of kind of that mental conditioning to get into my head and to pump myself up. And obviously after the marathon, and not failing at the marathon, but not finishing how I wanted to finish has raised a few demons and some doubts and some insecurities about my ability to go long. And I kind of didn't have a pity party, but I definitely spent a lot of time, too much time, thinking about if another 12 hours of exercise was going to be possible in 2 months. And I sat with that for a while. And I'll tell you what, I tried to get around it with my head, try to think of ways to get through it and ways to plan, and definitely ways to plan, like planning, training definitely helped. But the only thing that shut that voice up was getting out the door and running. I went to do 8 hill repeats here at Bronte on the 440. I was like, if I can just go and do 8. Now, remembering, this is where it comes into that self-talk. There was one stage in my life where I couldn't go 100 meters up that hill, and I was going over there and I was going to do 8. I was like, just go do 8 and you'll be okay. I made it clear after 2 that I didn't want 8. I wanted 10. I wanted 8 for the person that wanted 8. And I wanted to put 2 more, literally jam 2 more down my throat, just to say I'm in control of my body. If the body and the mind want 8, I'm going to give it 2 more to let it know that I'm in control. It's one of those ways that I'm pumping myself up. It's a way to get your own momentum. There's nothing can stop you if your desire for it outweighs your excuses for not doing it. And that's what I found with that run. The strength and the endorphins I got out of doing 10 laps instead of 8 carried me for another 48 hours after that. The next day we got up, went for my ride, pushed hard on our bike ride. That was with sore legs after on the 440. That flowed onto a long ride Saturday morning. Went long, went hard, run off the bike, still carrying that same buzz from knowing that I can do more than whatever my body's telling me. I just wanted more. And then you start wanting more. Went for a run on Sunday, and it was meant to be a 10, 12K run. I ended up running 22Ks. Now, it's probably not efficient training or probably effective training for the coaches out there that are doing the math. It's like, it has got danger written all over it, but for my head, it was the most powerful thing I could do. Then I woke up Sunday morning, and this is where momentum of others come in. One of the floral athletes, Brent McKinnon, has just finished his own world championship Ironman journey. He kind of come back and he got a sniff of that I was back throwing down, that I was back training, and he called me out on Monday. I was like, mate, let's go for a swim. We're a little bit, let's go for a swim. So we jumped in, and he goes, what have you been doing? I was like, mate, I've been just swimming 1K. Just been doing 1K. He's like, cool. Let's just start doing. So we'll start swimming this set. We'll go through this set twice. I'm going to try to do it 4 times. As soon as I heard him say 4, I'm like, well, I'm not getting out of this pool until we do it 4 times. So we end up going through the set 4 times. Now, there's 2 interesting things that happened during the training set with Brent. Brent's a super fish. He's super fast. Now, I could have been demoralized by swimming with Brent, and I understand this for anyone who's joining a club or a community, how hard it can be. When you rock up and you jump in the pool, the running track, or you're riding with a group, and you're at the back of the pack, it breaks your heart. You go back to being that small, weak little, that kid with the older kids at school. It's not easy. It takes a lot of inner strength to just keep showing up until you're one of the pack, and you start working your way through the pack. I get that. I've been that person that's been kicked in the guts, been at the back of the pack. The only way you're ever going to catch is by keep showing up. So rather than being demoralized by how quick Brent could swim, I focused on the fact that I was swimming 3Ks when 2 weeks ago I was swimming 1K. So find something in the session that means something to you. Find something in that session that means more to you than whatever they've got going on. So you're doing it for you. Find the reason that makes that session your session rather than looking the left and the right. There's a reason why racehorses have to wear blinkers every now and then, because if you look left and right, it slows you down. You're going to trip over. Keep your eyes dead ahead. Find something to focus on. Right. That's momentum of others. I've used the momentum of others to get myself a bike. I've used momentum of others with training, and I've out-trained doubt. So the minute doubt started to get loud, I out-trained doubt. And when you can't out-train doubt, because there's still those lingering questions that were raised, out-plan doubt. Now, this comes back to finding that way to make it something that you enjoy doing and finding those little windows. And now I'm reassessing my planning, reassessing our roster with Ali and Duke to make sure that Ali's supportive, that she's still on board, finding those little pockets of an hour and a half where I can jump in and do something in zone 2, or I can jump in and do something on the way to or from work. Just finding ways to get training done every day and staying on top of it every day. So be flexible with your planning. It's not always going to work. It's not always going to be black and white, but listen to that feedback, reassess and go again. And try. And when something works one week, document it, write it down, put it in place for the next week and repeat. It's been probably the busiest couple of weeks from Botle.It's point of view we've had in a while. And it's like I said, time poor, the podcast has taken a back seat. It's good to be back recording. Hopefully get this up tonight. It's Friday afternoon. We've decided out of nowhere, I realised that if we want to get Botle.It orders done for our merchandise, for Budgy Smugglers, for the fractal hats, if we want those before Christmas, the orders have to go in now. So it has been last minute, but the order window has been open, and I've been overwhelmed with the amount of orders. We've gone in the first 48 hours, I think there was over 30 orders. I'm staying on top of them as much as possible. They all come with a gift, so I've been packaging the boxes up so they're ready to go, so we can get them in, get them out as quick as possible. At the same time, we've been opening our 2-week order window. The Quire was the same reason for the bicycle kit, the Lycra. It had to be in and out before Christmas, so that's open as well. So we've got 2 online stores open at the moment, both taking orders, both keen to be back out the door before Christmas. We've also got our first fundraiser for Botle.It coming up at the end of the year, which requires its own attention. It needs a website, needs things set up efficiently, so we can obviously start fundraising efficiently. There is a Google form that I've put out. There is the newsletter that's gone out to our members announcing this and asking for some feedback. We want to make sure that the fundraising is as effective as the 48-hour challenge. There's going to be more news on that in the future, but it is something that's taking up a heap of headspace, as long as my part-time work, family life, and every other moving part that I've got going on. But here's the exciting bit. If I did this podcast last week when I was meant to, that's when the doubt was at its loudest. I probably should have, and I do apologize for that. The doubt was getting loud because I hadn't had any of my big sessions. I've been doing plenty of little sessions and talking about Ironman, but I hadn't started doing the 2, 3, 4-hour sessions that need to be doing. However, through a big weekend of training, again, you don't get empowered from talking, you get empowered from doing. I've started doing, and I've started feeling much better for it. I'm staring down the barrel of another big weekend this weekend. We've got a long ride tomorrow, which should be 5 to 6 hours, into another long run on Sunday, into a long swim on Monday. I'm back, I'm hungry, and I swear if you're listening, and you can hear it in my voice, you are watching somebody in the middle of their montage. You're not waiting for the finish line to watch this happen. You're starting to watch it now, and this is where the red carpet stuff starts to happen. It doesn't happen on the red carpet of the Ironman. It happens weeks out. So if you're sitting there watching, hear it in my voice, see it in my eyes. I hope I'm looking down the camera and I'm looking at the phone. It's happening now. Don't start your journey. Don't start your finish line until at the finish line. Start it now. If your mental health needs you to do something, do it. Go see a doctor. Go talk to somebody. Make that change now. If you're physically, you want to change, start it now. Stop talking about it. Stop listening to other people try to motivate about it. It comes from you. Get up off the lounge, start moving. Get up, start planning, start making phone calls. Do whatever you need to do. Start researching that thing that you want to do that starts that fire in you. That fire has been started in me. The whole idea of this podcast and this YouTube clip was to inspire others to come on the journey with me. You're starting to hear it now. I'm starting to hear it. I'm starting to believe it. I swear to God, by the time we get to Busso, it's going to be loud. Let's go. Let's get around it. Hit the comments. Let me know what's firing you up. Let's go. Cannot wait. Thank you. Apologies for last week. I'll try not to let it happen again. I've got a big couple of weeks coming up. As always, I'll see you in the comments. I'll see you in the description. I'll see you on the Botle.It social media channels. Thank you. This whole thing I've done, I know the numbers. We get the data on the numbers of this. They're not many, but I don't care because those numbers that we get and the comments that we get, I know somebody's listening. And if it's inspiring,